everybody, this is Darcy from Boy Mom Crochet Live, and today I'm going to show you how to make the star part of my Baby Gamer Lovey, as you can see here. The first part we're going to start with is this triangle portion. As you can see, we have 5 triangles connected to a little pentagon to make the star. This is all worked in Tunisian crochet, and we're going to use an 8mm hook, as you can see there. And I have just a plastic one with a long cable. The long stick ones will also work if that's what you have. I'm using Hobby Lobby's I Love This Yarn in light gray to make these triangles today. And my original star, it's I Love This Yarn in yellow. So whichever color that you think works best, but if you're making the Gamer Lovey, the yellow works better for the star, as we want it to look like Super Mario's star. So first, we're going to take the yarn and make a slip knot. Put our hook in. And then we're going to just chain 1. Now this loop on your hook counts as 1 stitch. So you already have 1 on your hook, and then you are going to yarn over, which is an increase in Tunisian crochet. Insert into this back bump of your chain, which can get a little tight. Yarn over, pull up a loop. So you have 3 stitches on your hook. We're going to yarn over and pull through 1. This is how you start your standard reverse pass. And then yarn over, pull through 2 until the end, which in this case is just 2. And that's row 1. Row 2 is going to be increase, simple stitch, increase, simple stitch. So we're going to do an increase, come into this post, do a Tunisian simple stitch, another increase, and then on our ending stitch, what we want to do is make sure we go under these 2 bars, so that way we have a nice look on the end. It has a more finished look than if we just go under 1. So now we have 5 stitches on our hook, and we're going to yarn over, chain 1, is pretty much what that is, to get it up high enough, and then we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 all the way back. Okay. Now the next row is actually just going to be 4 Tunisian simple stitch. But we have to make sure we get into this increase, which is right here. It looks a little bit different than the simple stitch, especially when I pull it out a little more. So we want to make sure we grab the increase. So there's 1, there's the simple stitch, 2, and here's the last increase, which can be really hard to find. It likes to hide against the last part of the row. So you just kind of have to scoop up under it, simple stitch, and then again under the last 2 bars. So again, we have 5 stitches on the hook because we didn't increase any in that row. So we'll just chain 1 and pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 to the end. Okay, so row 4, increase. Then we'll do 3 Tunisian simple stitch, 1, 2, 3, and another increase. And then we're going to go under our 2 bars again, pull up a loop. So now we have 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you want to make sure when you do these end stitches that you keep them kind of loose, because it tends to get tighter. And I know for me, especially this side, you can already tell is much looser just from working with the hook. So you want to make sure you try to leave these a little looser so it doesn't look kind of wonky and pull to one side. Pull through 2 all the way back. Okay. Now row 5 is just another simple stitch across. So we count that increase, And now here's our stitches to, wait, did I miss one? I did. So there, 1, 2, 3, and then we'll catch that increase again. Make sure we have enough slack so we can do our end stitch loose enough. So chain 1, yarn over, pull through 2, all the way back. Okay, row 6 is another increase, and we're gonna stitch 5 across, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, increase, end. And the nice part is these are pretty easy to count your rows. So if you get lost and forget what row you're on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're currently on row 6. And we should have 9 little stitches on our hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so we're on, we have all our stitches, we haven't dropped any. Chain 1, yarn over, pull through 2, all the way back. Okay, so now row 7 is another just simple stitch across. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Catch that increase, 7. And the last simple stitch we have to work, 8. But since this first loop counts as 1, we have 9. We can count again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so we're still doing good. Chain 1, pull through 2, all the way back. So this triangle really isn't too hard if you're familiar with Tunisian crochet. If you're not, then it has a little bit of a learning curve, but once you get the Tunisian part down, it's really not too bad. And it works up really pretty quickly, which is nice. I mean, you do have to make 5, but 5 that work through very quickly makes it not take too very long. Okay, so we're on row 8, we're gonna increase, do 7 across, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, increase, and end. Okay. 1, turn over, pull through 2, all the way back. So the next 2 rows are going to be just stitching across. Which goes pretty quickly as long as you have enough yarn. Okay, so we just make sure we catch that increase first. And once you're just stitching across where you don't have any increases to worry about, it's really easy, as you'll see. Because you just put 1 under each bar that you see, and you don't have to search for any, like this last one that likes to hide. Get under those 2. Check 1, 2. So that was row 9. And now we'll go to row 10, which is going to be exactly the same. So just really easy. These bars are just right here. Easy to find. Sorry, I've got to get some more yarn. It's getting tight. There we go. trying to make sure I keep it looser. I'm not always good at following my own advice. Sometimes it's easier to tell people to keep it looser than it is to make sure I keep it loose myself. But it really does make a difference, at least for me. I don't know, if you know a secret to keeping this stitch tighter on your hook, let me know, because I would love to know how to not have this side end up so loose and this side end up tighter. Okay, so now we're on row 11. We're going to increase. We're going to stitch across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then we're going to increase again and do our ending stitch. Okay, so we should have 13 stitches on our hook. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay. So now we're going to chain 1 and yarn over, pull through 2 all the way back, as we've been doing. Just keep repeating it because it's really helpful if you're not used to this, to kind of have it drilled into your brain that this is the standard return pass. Yarn over, pull through 2 after you chain 1. Okay, so now the next 3 rows are going to be just stitching into what's already there. We're not going to increase for the next 3 rows, 12, 13, and 14. So this is 12. Just gonna stitch across, making sure we pick up our increases. And we should have 13 stitches on our hook at the end of the row. Make sure we get that guy. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yep. 1, pull through 2. And we're going to do that for the next 2 rows as well. So this was row 12. And this is where a lot of times I have to start going back and counting to make sure that I know which row I'm on, because between 13 and 14 for some reason I really get mixed up on which one I'm on. So this is 13. Loose, or as loose as you can. I know it's hard, and this plastic hook, if you have plastic hooks like I do, they make it a little bit harder to pull through sometimes. They're a little bit grippy, or at least mine is. If you have other hooks, they might slide a little better, but you know, with Tunisian everything gets kind of tight, so maybe it's not such a bad thing that my hook makes me be a little bit looser than I would naturally be. Okay, so that was 13, and here we go on to 14. Good. Stitching across, we're getting really close to being finished. If you can't tell, we have one more increase row, and that's our next row, row 15. And then we will have 3 more rows of just stitching across, which is great practice for Tunisian. Let you know, figure out if you kind of like doing it or not. I love it. I think it's a lot of fun. And there's so many different stitches that you can do, which I hope to get into more patterns with them soon, but you know, sometimes life happens. All right, so now we're on row 15. We're going to increase and stitch across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, increase, ending stitch. So we should have 15 stitches on our hook, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Perfect. So now we don't have to worry about increasing anymore once we finish this return pass. And if you're wondering why I'm making this in gray, it's because my older son has decided that he needs one of these, even though he's almost 4, and has never used any sort of Lovey, ever. But he wants a puppy dog on his, so he's still gonna get a star, but it's not really gonna be the Gamer Lovey, like his little brother has gotten. But it'll be a cute little puppy dog Lovey, which I can share with you guys if you're interested when I get it made. So there was row 15, and now we're just gonna simple stitch across for 16, 17, and 18, and this is row 16. We're just gonna truck along, and you know, I feel like I can go faster on rows that I don't have an increase, even though the increases are at the beginning and end of the row. I don't know why that is, if it's just a mental thing, or if it's just a perception thing and I'm not actually changing my speed at all. But feels like it goes by faster. Ooh, that's really tight. Okay, gotta loosen up a bit. Not following my own advice again. Okay, and now row 17. It goes a lot better when the skein doesn't collapse on itself and make things hard to come out. Or even inside or outside of the skein worker. I like to pull from the inside, but you know, it doesn't always work out. So this one I got lucky. Or not, since it's not working so great for me right now. So the return pass for 17. And then we'll start 18. And you can see why I said that it doesn't really matter if you have like a super long hook with a cable, or if you just have the straight ones that you can get from like Boy, or I think mine is Yarnology from Hobby Lobby. Because this part is not very wide. The main thing is that you just want to have a hook that doesn't have like a huge grip on the end back here that would keep you from being able to move your stitches down, or you know, some of the metal hooks have a little bit bigger of a bump right here, but you could probably do it as long as you don't crochet too tightly. They would probably go over that, because I mean, this one even has a little bit of a grip, but it's more of an indentation, so just depends on how badly you want to try this out, or if you have a Tunisian hook already at home. Go. Okay. So we have now done all of our Tunisian stitch rows. So now it's time to fasten off. And basically all you're going to do here is like a slip stitch. Go into your stitch, yarn over and pull it up and then pull it through. And that leaves you with a really nice little edge for, you know, a finished edge. If it's a piece where you're not having to attach to anything else, or in this case, a nice edge to sew onto our pentagon, which we're going to make next. I'm not so great at slip stitches, so it takes me a little longer, but it all works out in the end, right? Okay, and then I like to do it in this last one too, because I mean it's a stitch too. Oops. Catch it. There we go. All right. And there's our little triangle. So now we just need to take our scissors and we want to leave a decent little tail, you know, 6 to 8 inches or so. I'm not real great at with measurements, so that could be more, and it might be more than we need. And then we just pull it through. All right. So now we have 2 of the 5 triangles we need, since I already had one made. And next we are going to work on this pentagon piece that this little head's attached to. Rolling around, so see, it's just all 5 sides. Again, it's not too hard. This one does have decreases in it though, so that's, I guess you can see that, decreases over here. So that'll be a little bit different of a technique, but it's not very hard. I mean, it's just stitching them together. So slip knot, put it on our hook. For this one, we need to chain 14. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oops, getting a little tight there. 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Okay, so now we got lucky looking loose chain, and we're gonna go on the back bump, so that way we have a really nice edge here. We're gonna start here and pull up our loops. Get there, there we go. Even when I think I make them loose, they like to tighten up on me. This is probably one of the most tedious parts of crocheting to me, is just working in your foundation chain. And I know there are ways for regular crochet to work without a foundation chain. I just haven't practiced them very much myself. Sometimes it's just hard to get past what you learned with. But if we didn't do that, then we wouldn't learn cool things like Tunisian crochet, because I think that's probably not something that most people start with, just because it's so different. And there aren't a whole lot of patterns out there for it, at least that I found. If you know of a bunch, let me know, because I do enjoy it. So, continuing to force our way along our chain. Ooh, that one got real tight on me. And you know, if you're having problems like this, you can always go up a hook size for your chain. You don't need a Tunisian hook for your chain. So don't let that be a factor if you're having a hard time working in your chain. Okay, there we should have 15 loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Perfect. Now we're gonna do a standard return pass. Chain 1, pull through 2. Okay, so now we are just gonna go across, one in each stitch. So we should have 15 stitches at the end. And my chain likes to turn over on me because it's a little bit tight. And you'll find that with Tunisian, if you're not familiar with it, it does like to roll up some. And that's because most of the yarn is going to the back of your stitch and it's pulling tight on the front. So it's just trying to relax itself out the best way it knows how, which is to roll. But a little blocking will fix it right up. And that's also why we're using an 8-inch hook for a worsted weight yarn, to try to alleviate some of the rolling issues that we get. Okay, so it's 2 rows done. Now we're going to increase, Tunisian simple stitch across, and increase again at the end. So when we're done with this row, we should have 17 stitches on our hook. And that's, I mean, pretty much how this guy goes. He's very much like the triangle that we just did, up until we get to the widest point and start decreasing, which is around row 15. That's where we start decreasing. So if you think you kind of have a handle on stuff, you can always skip forward to where we start decreasing, or you can hang around and decrease with us until we get there. This one does take a little bit longer to work just because it has more stitches and is a bigger piece, but it still really doesn't take too long, which is nice. That's what I really like about this little lovey, is it works up really quickly, especially if you can do your return passes really quickly. Cuts down a lot of your time. Okay, so now we're gonna simple stitch across, picking up our increases. Oh, we forgot to count to make sure we had enough. That's what happens when I start talking, I guess. We'll count our stitches at the end of this row to make sure we have all of them, because it should also be 17 for this row. And I'm sorry for the clicking of my cord. I don't really know what else to do with him, as he just kind of smacks away over there. Okay, and now let's count and see how many we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Perfect. Now we're gonna do our standard return. And it helps if you kind of bunch your stitches up, and they can go over a little faster. Which helps make this work up a little bit faster. As long as your hook doesn't catch on all of your loops like mine likes to do. So that was row 4, as you can see. So now row 5, we're going to increase and simple stitch across. And you can, count your stitches as you go. I tend to usually forget my first stitch as I start counting. I start counting the one I work as number 1, which is not technically correct since you already have one on your hook when you start the row. And then I get myself all confused at the end of the row and forget that I could just add 1. Oh wait, that was an increase row. We forgot to increase. Increase and then end stitch. Try to keep that loose. Now we'll return. Okay, and you see how it's rolling on me? It's because all of this yarn ends up back here instead of up here, and so it's just trying to push its way flat. But all it takes is a little wet blocking when you're done, and it'll lay as flat as this guy likes to now. See, he's not rolling up at all, which seemed like it was going to be more of a challenge than it was, so that was kind of nice. So now we're going to do row 6. We're going to make sure we catch our increase. And stitch across. And here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we'll count that way. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, catching this guy, 18, and 19. That's exactly how many we wanted, so we'll make sure we keep that kind of loose. Chain 1, and return. Okay, so now row 7, again we're going to increase, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, increase 20, and 21. Okay, pull it looser, chain 1, and return pass. was row 7. So you can see we're starting to get it to flare out a lot like we want to do. And we're gonna go 7 more rows up to row 14, and then we're gonna start decreasing. So we'll get the pentagon shape. I'm probably going to work those next 7 rows quickly, so we won't have a lot of talking about it because it's just the same basic thing. We're going to have a row where we stitch across, and then we're gonna have a row where we increase. All of your odd rows should be your increase rows, and your even rows should be your rows where you just Tunisian simple stitch across. When we get to row 14, I will come back and we will work on our decreases together. So as you can see, now we have 14 rows. It's trying to curl on me. We're getting a nice little trapezoid pattern here. So now what we're gonna do is decrease to get to the point and a pentagon, which is what we're looking for. So row 15, the very first stitch is Tunisian simple stitch 3 together. All that means is you're going under 1, 2, 3 posts, yarning over and pulling up a loop. That's it. Pretty simple, right? So now we're gonna simple stitch the rest of the row. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, oops, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and then we have 3 left. So now we're gonna Tunisian simple stitch these 3 together, just the same as we did over there. Pull that loop up, and I forgot what I was at, 24, I think, no, it's 22, wasn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and this will be 23, which is what we wanted. Okay, and then it's just a standard return pass. That's all you have to do to decrease, is just put them all together and then standard reverse pass. So it's quite a bit easier than having to mess with, you know, invisible decreases or figuring out where your leg of your single crochet or double crochet or whatever needs to go, which I find really nice. Because it doesn't really change anything except for that you need to go under more than one post. So row 16, we're gonna do Tunisian simple stitch 3 together again. So 3, so we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and then we have our last 3. It's going to be 18. There we go. And then our last little end stitch is going to be 19. And you may wonder why we're not including this end stitch in our last 3 together. Sorry, my yarn split on me here. There we go. And that's because our very first stitch is not included in the first 3 together. So in order to keep it even on both sides, we're just going to do the first and last stitch on their own, and remembering that the first loop is our first stitch, because otherwise it gets kind of confusing. So that way we have an even look across our pentagon. Now row 17 again, Tunisian simple stitch 3 together. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and here's our last 3. So 1, 2, 3, 14, and here is stitch 15. Alright, and now again for row 18, 3 together, 1, 2, 3, so that's 2 stitches, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and our last 3 there are going to become stitch number 10 and stitch number 11. Now it can be challenging right here because here's your chain and here's your end part. So you want to go into this part right here because this is the top of the stitches that are just getting pulled over since it's the decrease. And especially since it's a 3 together instead of just a 2 together, it's pulling it a little more, which is what we need to get the shape we want, but can get a little confusing there at the end. And so we have a simpler look on both sides, but this side is kept a little bit looser, so the holes are not quite as obvious, but some of this again can block out, not all of it. I have been going a little too tight over here. So again, keep in mind you want to get loose on your end stitches. Okay, so row 19, we're gonna do another 3 together. So we have 2, and we'll do 3, 4, 5. And here's our last 3. So we're gonna do 1, 2, 3, and that is gonna be stitch number 6. And right into here is gonna be stitch number 7. And try to loosen it up there. See, that's probably where we want to be loose. At least up here where it's starting to get very tight. All right. Now, our next row is actually going to be a Tunisian simple stitch 2 together. So all we want on this one is these 2. It's going to be row 2 or stitch number 2. We have 3, and then we have 2 more to put together. 4, and our ending stitch number 5. And again, just a regular return pass. Okay. Now for this row, we're going to do 3 together. 1, 2, 3. So we have 2 stitches, and then we're just going to do our end stitch. So we have 3 stitches, standard return. Okay. Now on this stitch, this is our last row. Sorry, not stitch, row. We're going to go into this one, and we're going to go into our end stitch. We're going to yarn over, pull a bead loop, then we're just going to yarn over and pull through those 2, and we're done. So all we have to do now is cut our yarn and fasten it off. And where did my scissors go? Okay, there. And there's no need to leave a long tail, just long enough for you to weave in on this piece. Fasten off, and there you have it. Now all you have to do is take your triangles and sew them onto your sides of your pentagon. Make sure when you sew them that you stitch these corners together so they don't kind of gap a little bit and look kind of funky. So here's what it looks like.
And that's how you make the star portion of the Baby Gamer Lovey. If you want to learn how to make the head portion, visit my website at boymomcrochetlife.com. Thanks for stopping by.